the magic Reddit thread, it actually worked. What's going on?
Welcome to Video Game Book Club, the show where we pick, we play, and we discuss a video game each and every month. I'm your host, Juan Pablo, JP, and with me always, Ben, Tizzle Toops. And this past month, Ben, we played Spiritfarer. And have you ever played a game that revolves so much about dying?
I mean, like, Dark Souls, yeah.
Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Every
Call
single
of Duty,
game.
sure. Yeah. Lots of death in those games. Elden Ring, dying a lot.
It's
Plenty of death.
Ben still hasn't gotten good, is the problem. But Spiritfarer is not like Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or Call of Duty. They talk about dying in a more genuine and positive, sentimental way, which is beautiful to experience. But before we dive into it, I just want to announce to the community of Buena Le Games that Benny and I are going to have a second podcast to give you more content that you've for sure been wanting from us.
For sure.
We talk about Video Game Book Club every single month where we focus entirely on just one video game. But Ben, me, and the Buena Le Games community play other games. And there's other gaming news and other things that we want to share and talk about. So we're going to host a podcast at the middle of the month to talk about Video Game Book Club and everything else, I guess.
Yeah, gaming news, general stuff, what people in the community have been playing this past month in the Video Game Book Club Discord, which you should join if you're not already.
Join the club.
We've had a lot of people playing the game Spiritfarer alongside us, which has been awesome because we've had so many conversations and stuff about the game, but like we're playing other games as well, like not Spiritfarer, like Blueprints, for example. Is a game that just came out. Everyone's playing.
Clair Obscur.
We were in the VGB Discord, trying to figure out all the puzzles together. It was really fun. So yeah, the new podcast, The Checkpoint, it'll be out kind of around the middle of the month, and it'll be kind of a check-in where we are with the book club, but also just kind of more casual gaming news, other games, what people in the community are up to. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And I promise, this is a Buena Le Games promise to everyone, that we will start posting our podcast in all platforms. So it's not only on Spotify and YouTube. It's just a little bit of a learning curve that Ben and I have with Buena Le Games. This has actually been our 12th episode. We've played 12 games on Buena Le Games. So it's kind of a big deal. But, 12 episodes isn't really that much in 1 year, So by adding the checkpoint, you get to hear from us a little bit more. And also it makes us better. So thank you so much for always supporting us. And we appreciate you greatly. But now it's time to talk about Spiritfarer. And Ben, for some reason, I'm blanking. What is Spiritfarer?
I mean, you already said it. Spiritfarer is a game about death. But it's done in a way that I really have not experienced like in a game before. It's done in such a sentimental, touching way. It's less about death and more about sort of the dying process, if that makes sense. Which sounds super heavy, and it is super heavy.
It is.
This is a heavy game. But yeah, I mean, at its core, Spiritfarer is really a management sim. Like you can sort of compare it to like a Stardew Valley, but instead of growing crops and like doing stuff around the town, where you can still grow crops and you can build tools and stuff like that, but the setting of the game is all aboard the ship. You are the Spiritfarer, and in that role you're ferrying these spirits to the afterlife, and with that comes all sorts of feeding them to keep the spirits hungry, to keep them happy, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Lots of quests, side quests along the way, some character development. Overall, a really fun game and a really unique game for sure in the way it tackles some of this stuff.
Definitely. I feel like this is also, to mention, a game that the community chose for us to play. So I kind of didn't really know too much about Spiritfarer. It's one of those things that like always pops up on my Steam homepage when it's on sale or something. But I never really understood what the game was about until, of course, Video Game Book Club, and I played it to its entirety. I actually completed it to 98%. So I got pretty close to the 100. but I
Dang.
couldn't get the last 2% there. It was time to record, actually. Um, but like Ben said, you spent half your time managing your boat, the spirits that live in your boat, and you have to do so much stuff, building things and growing your crops and picking up fruit and, using a sawmill to split some logs or whatever. But there's another side of the game too. It's a little bit of an adventure game in which you're in this big like open ocean kind of world, and you're ferrying or navigating your boat around different cities. You find different spirits that may or may not join your boat. They give you little quests, but there's also a little bit of a kind of like a 2D platforming aspect to the game. It's not completely like difficult or any parkour that it's too bad. It's just, a fun little side action that the game gives you so that you're not entirely just focused on managing the boat. But Ben, why don't you give me like, how does this game start and how does the game push you forward at the beginning to let you know kind of what it is about?
Yeah. So the kind of opening scene of the game is your character, this kind of smallish looking female character. You're in a boat, you've got a cat, and you're just kind of paddling. It's like this very charming 2D art style. There's like very soft music. You're just paddling down the river, and me going into this game, I had no idea what this game was about. I knew from like the Steam page that it was sort of like a management sim, like we said. But thematically, gameplay wise, like I really had no idea. So you're paddling down this river and you come across another boat. And on this boat is Charon. And Charon is this
That's a crazy
massive,
pronunciation.
hulking Charon. I don't know.
I say Charon.
What do you? Okay, we need to decide right now. What are
Karen.
we going with?
Karen?
Charon. All right.
That sounds like Karen. I don't know if I like it.
So you come across this other boat, and on this boat is this massive, dark, hulking figure with this big scythe, and he starts talking to you in this big booming voice. And I was like, "What's going on? Like, is this going to be some sort of like Nine Souls style, like Metroidvania, like dark tones? Like, I don't know what's going on." But then within the first few lines of dialogue with Charon, you can like it immediately sets like a very sweet tone. Like it
Yeah.
in some of the dialogue, the cat that's accompanying you like runs to Charon at one point and like goes under his cloak and like ruffles around. So it sets from the very beginning like a very kind of funny and very
Playful.
like sweet,
Yeah.
playful style. But essentially, Charon tells you, "I'm the Spiritfarer right now. My time is over. I'm going to this here Evergate behind me to go off to the great unknown, basically. And it's your time. You're the new Spiritfarer. It's your job now. You got to find the spirits. You got to take them when they're ready. Um, Good luck. I'm out of here. Deuces." That's basically what Charon says. And he gives you like a little glowing orb, you and your cat actually. He
Yeah.
gives you both glowing orbs called the Everlight. That is, he just says, is going to help you along the way. You don't really know how. And that's it. He's out of there. He's gone.
And your character's name is Stella, which is a beautiful name, and your cat is Daffodil. But the Everlight ends up being like your main tool of the game, and anytime you like gain a new ability or you have a new like shop or something around your boat that you need to use a tool for, like like cutting your crops or something like that, the Everlight becomes that tool, and basically you don't really need to carry any items. It's kind of like the point that this is your only tool that you use in the game. But now, well, you need a boat to ferry all the people, right? So you go and meet Albert, and Albert is your like the shipyard man. He's a shark, and he teaches you and gives you the boat. And you have to find your first, I guess, spirit that you have to ferry and start understanding what the game is about. At this point, I'm pretty sure that I was like, okay, I'm going to manage hundreds of spirits. If I'm the Spiritfarer, people are dying every day. So there's going to be so many. I'm going to be going back and forth a lot through the Everdoor, to the Everdoor, so that I can ferry all these spirits. But quickly you realize that it's not that simple. Spirits don't necessarily want to go to the Everdoor immediately. They're not ready to pass into the beyond. They want something more. So who's the first spirit that you get, Ben, and how does that
Yeah.
go?
Yeah, so the first spirit, so like again, this is very beginning of the game, like right after you meet Charon, I think you kind of find yourself in this little town almost. And again, like JP said, it's very like 2D platforming style, so you're just kind of jumping, going across platforms, whatever. And you encounter this little figure who's like kind of a very like cartoon art style, but like a little kind of
Like a little
like robed
ghost.
figure basically
Yeah.
that just has like two eyes poking out. Um, but the figure seems to recognize you when you talk to them, and it's like, oh my gosh, Stella, it's me. It's been so long. Let's go to your boat over there. Like there's a boat over there for you to take. Let's go to it. So you go to the boat, and when you get on board, the figure like transforms essentially into this like really elegant, regal looking deer
Mm-hmm.
figure, almost named Gwen. And so Gwen is the first spirit that comes aboard your boat. She kind of does the work of introducing you to some of like the core gameplay mechanics. Like JP said, she kind of takes you to Albert with the shipyard and introduces you to the concept of adding new buildings to the boat, upgrading the size of the boat and stuff like that. Her presence on the boat also just like by itself teaches you that you're going to need to cater to these spirits like will and
Mm-hmm.
desires, because like right away she gets on board and she's like, this isn't going to work for me. Like I Gwen is a little posh, you can tell
Oh
she's
yeah.
a little like kind of up there, and she's like, I need a guest house. I need some food. I need blah 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 blah. And you're like, all right, like that's I've got my list of chores basically. Like time to get to it, I guess.
Yeah, so you start doing this, and it's so funny because you're at this point you're basically living and taking care of just Gwen. Like everything that you do is for her, and you get to experience that. You give her some food, and she's like, "I don't really like that much. Like I like this other type of food." It's like, "Oh, okay, so I'm gonna grow some corn," and then I cook the corn, and I got some popcorn, and then I give her the popcorn. She's like, how did you know I love snacks? I love snacks. This is my favorite food. And so her like happiness meter goes like way up. Uh, and so she kind of teaches you like the basic like of what the gameplay is going to be. You keep them happy, it makes your life on the boat easier. If you keep them not happy, they're kind of nagging you a little bit, and it's like, hey, can I get some food? And it always, like when the spirits ask you for food, it always made me feel so bad because they literally walk up to you. Like they're like kind of like, they're live in the boat. They're walking up to you and they're like, dude, I'm so hungry. Can you please give me something to eat? It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I haven't fed you in a
Yeah.
while.
And obviously we're going to get to it, but like each of the spirits you encounter has a different personality,
Hmm.
and some of them are a lot more pushy than others. So
Oh,
it
dude,
can get a little contentious when they get hungry like
some of
that.
them are so dramatic too, and it just makes it for pretty entertaining kind of visual. Like especially because every spirit takes a form of a different animal. Like we mentioned, Gwen is a doe or a deer, but you'll find all types of animals that will join you on this kind of journey as the new Spiritfarer. And I think the developers did such a good job with the animations of them. We'll meet them soon, but basically, this is how you start. You can at the beginning, you can't really do much. You can fish. Your fishing rod isn't like super good just yet. You can cook, and then you can grow some crops, and give some food to Gwen. Every big city in like the different stages of the map has this raccoon dude who sells you a bunch of supplies, and he is kind of like your typical kind of funny like capitalist, like, hey, like the Raccoon Inc. has like it's a corporation and we own like everywhere and everything, and you find really funny the spirits to talk bad about them because they're basically like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, just kind of like in this kind of afterlife, they're this capitalist organization, but you can buy some stuff. But then Gwen is like, hey, you need to like find more spirits, and I have the perfect person that I need you to meet. So let's go meet them. And so Gwen basically gives you, a task and to go and find this other spirit, and you find a tool. And a tool you get to know is your uncle, and he is super excited to see you. He's excited to join you in your boat. And at this point, Ben, I had the realization, okay, you know Gwen from your past life, I guess, or your life.
Yeah.
And a tool is your uncle. So every spirit, which we only have two right now, has a connection to you, which I was like, okay, I'm going to clock that in, because it's not like I'm ferrying these random spirits that I don't know, these strangers.
Yeah.
They all, at this point, at least very early in the game, seem to enjoy being with you, like you, and are relatives or some sort of like relationship you had with them. So I was like, okay, game, I see what you're doing. But Atul, he takes the form of a frog. So he's this kind of big blue, kind of not eccentric, but like very happy and loud. And
yeah, he's like very opposite of where Gwen is like kind of quiet and reserved and kind of little preppy. Atul is just like your loud, boisterous uncle that like is getting drunk at the cookout and get grilling up food and stuff like that. So yeah,
and he loves to do stuff around the boat too. He starts like fixing things, quote unquote. It's just an animation of him like kind of like kneeling down and like hammering some boards and stuff together. And then if you go talk to Gwen, you can see in her happiness meter that she's annoyed that Atul is doing that, so her happiness is way down. And there's not really like any way that you can make that better, except if you give them hugs, which is one of like a really big and meaningful mechanic of this game, where you can go up to a character and you can do a few things. You can talk to them, of course, they give you tasks, or they just, you can just have a little conversation. You can give them something, which doesn't do too much in the game unless they ask for something. You can give them food, which is a different option, or you can hug them. And every character, every spirit that you're ferrying has a different animation for the hugs that you give them, or that they give to each other, and they're really sweet. And usually it accompanies a little quote after, like, oh, I really needed that, or I always love hugging you, or something. And it's kind of like the game reminding you what it's all about. Eventually, and we'll get to that, your boat becomes gigantic and you are overwhelmed by the amount of tasks that you can do. But you can always take a second in your gameplay and just give a hug to a spirit that maybe needs it, or maybe you need a little hug, and you give it to them, and it's just really sweet. So at this point, your family's growing, you got Gwen and you got Atul in your boat, and you're like, okay, I understand it now.
Yeah, but like you said, so when you pick up Atul and he's introduced as your uncle, like you said, it definitely does kind of set the gears turning of like, what's actually going on here? Because it's like, your character is like human as far as you can tell. It's like a small human girl. And Gwen, who is this like deer, is seemingly a friend, like you said. Atul is a frog, and he's your uncle. And so, yeah, it's like you said, it's like kind of setting off the kind of background narrative, I guess you can call it, of kind of what's going on in this game. But I was definitely trying to figure it out, like you were as well, with like, okay, what's actually going on here? Because like it's the little spirits on the island are weird. Like they're these little like non-humanoid, covered in like robes, and they just like are very nondescript. So it's just like, what's going on? What are we actually doing here? And it definitely, the realization of that as the game goes on is pretty huge.
And like, where do you meet Karen? In Greek mythology, you meet him at the river Styx, right? And he's ferrying you to your afterlife, wherever you might end up in the underworld. So that where you are right now is kind of that land in between the dead and the living. But in this game, it's not really a river. It's kind of like an ocean. That's kind of how they've been, or a lake, an ocean, maybe you want to call it. That's how they've interpreted what like Styx is. The interesting thing about it is that there's these cities, like Ben is saying, like spirits are living in this ocean. And so you also come to that kind of, quickly realization that like all these spirits, they are not ready to go to the afterlife, or they have like a life and they are living in like apartments, and there's like big like skyscrapers and stuff, or they are stuck in the middle of the ocean, and you find a couple of spirits like that which are really funny, and you get a little shenanigan quest. They're literally called that, shenanigans. And so it just kind of, you start understanding what the world and how it works, and you also start understanding how you're going to be progressing. So the game, as Ben alluded to a little bit earlier, kind of has a little bit of a Metroidvania vibe to it, because you have your abilities. At the beginning you don't really have anything, you just jump and you walk, that's it. But you quickly get a double jump, and it's like, oh, the places that I couldn't reach before, I can reach now, and the cities that I was visiting are opening up to me, and I'm finding new spirits or finding new items or being able to talk to a specific person that will advance a specific quest. And so the kind of next character that you meet at the first town over is Summer, and she is a snake. And at this city, which I can't remember what city it is at this point, you unlock the double jump. But the way you unlock these things is based on the spirits that you have brought on board. You get like a coin, if you want to call it that, or some sort of like
they give you like a toll for their passage, basically. I think
exactly.
It's called an obol.
An obol, yeah. So based on how many obols you have, you exchange them for an ability. And so this is kind of, okay, again, the game has a really kind of good introduction to everything and how it all is going to work. I need to get these spirits on board because they have to give me these obols so that I can get the next ability, and I can progress quests, progress different parts of the city, go to like mines and be able to mine more items that I'm going to need to build something else. And additionally, one more thing, once you get Summer into your boat, you also start kind of putting together that these spirits will help you in specific tasks. So for example, right now, you start with just like your garden, and you have your rod, and you can fish. But soon Gwen will teach you and will tell you, hey, I need you to build me a loom. I used to like make fabric in like, my real life, and it would be great if you build me a loom so I can do that. And you're like, cool. So, you gather your resources, your wood or your whatever, and then you build Gwen a loom. And actually the loom is the same color as Gwen. Then you go and you build a sawmill, because a tool tells you, hey, dude, I used to like, we need to make better facilities, so you need better wood. You need to cut them into like, you need to cut the logs into planks. Build me a sawmill and I'll show you how to use it. And the sawmill is blue, just like a tool. And the same thing. So it kind of keeps going like that. And you start piecing together, okay, every spirit will teach me how to do one extra thing. Every spirit will give me an obol, and that's the progression of the game. So it's a really good introduction. I think those first like few hours, 3 to 5 hours, you understand the game kind of completely, which sometimes these type of games fail to do that. Like they either want to give you so many spirits super quick and then you kind of feel a little bit overwhelmed, or they don't want to give you anything at all and you are kind of bored and you have nothing to do. And I think they kind of found a really good sweet spot that tells you, okay, I kind of want to keep going. I kind of want to keep playing this game.
Yeah, definitely. And as you unlock and build the kind of different buildings on the ship, like you said, the sawmill, the loom, the garden, and stuff like that, it basically just gives you busy work to do. Mm-hmm. Because as you like, the primary method of navigation in this game is like we said, the primary kind of location is this giant boat, and you're sailing from island to island basically, to go do all of these little tasks, to get the spirits, to gather resources. So you end up with a lot of time, basically, from, point A to point B. There is fast travel, but that unlocks a little bit later. And it also doesn't totally, like, you can't just go directly to an island. You have to go to kind of like a central point in a region that you can then go from there and kind of cut the commute down. But the commute is still there. But the game right now is basically just setting up kind of the loop of like busy work, basically. So it kind of becomes like, okay, I have a quest in Hummingberg, so I'm going to set my course from there. My boat is going to start, going there. And while it goes, I'm going to go water my crops. I'm going to go cut some logs. I'm going to go feed all of my spirits so that they don't hate me and hate my guts. I'm going to go give them all hugs because it makes me feel good. And I'm going to do some fishing. And
Yeah.
then you get there, you do your quests, you go back to the boat, turn in the quests, get new quests, and do the whole thing over again. So it's like it. This is, I feel like, the point when the core gameplay loop really kicks off, and it's also kind of around the same time where you get the first big like story beat, I would call it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
when Gwen's kind of personal storyline kind of kicks off. So as you're going, Gwen kind of says like, "Hey, I've kind of been avoiding this, but I think I'd like to go visit my family's home at X location." So you go there, you and Gwen kind of leave the ship, go onto the island with this big mansion. And Gwen is like very emotional. She's kind of overcome with emotion. And she asks to go back on the ship. You go back, you can, kind of poke around the island and find some bits and bobs and little Easter eggs and stuff. But you go back on the boat and Gwen is kind of like, I need some time by myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I that kind of got me for whatever reason. So I need a bit of time by myself. So you keep doing your thing. You don't see Gwen for a bit. You keep doing your thing. You're harvesting vegetables. You're cutting logs. You're doing all this stuff. You're giving Atul tons of popcorn probably. Um, you're trying to figure out what to feed Summer because Summer's a vegetarian, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I do, bro? All I got is fish. What do I do?
So much fish, bro.
um, but then when Gwen finally kind of comes back around, or sorry, she kind of
Yeah,
disappears
she
actually.
does.
So Gwen kind of vanishes from your boat. Nobody knows where she is. Nobody's, heard anything from her. Basically, she's just gone. So if you talk to the NPCs, they kind of tell you, check the spots where she might be. It's pretty obvious she's probably back at her family's house.
Right. Yeah.
So you go there, you find her again, and she's just kind of defeated. She's like very low energy. She's like, she kind of comes to like some realizations, I guess you could say, about her past and her family. It's all very vague. There's not a lot of like concrete information. There's like little bits.
Yeah.
Um, but essentially what happens is she tells you, I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. Like I'm ready to go to the spirit gate. You are the Spiritfarer. Take me there.
Yeah. And so you kind of have to do it. I never not did it. Whenever someone asks me to
Yeah.
go, you can say no. Actually, you can say no, and I guess you'll keep them. I've never did it, so I don't know. But I guess they'll be in the boat still for a little bit longer. I don't know if they ask you every day, but there's like a yes or no. Uh, but anyways, of course, I feel like when someone is ready, and again, the game has such an emphasis on it and it's so emotional. Of course, you say yes. So I took Gwen to the Everdor, and you have to like fast travel there, which is really funny. Just a little note: the fast travel seal that you unlock is the most slightly annoying like music slash character that is in the game, which is really funny for a game that is like cozy. And one other thing that I wanted to say is that you can't travel during the nighttime.
Hmm.
So your boat will be kind of docked, or it will stop wherever it is. And a couple times I like stopped or docked at where the seal
Oh no.
is, and I would just hear this banging loud like music all night, and it was so annoying while I was trying to tend to my crops or do
That
like
is
different things
so
around the
fun.
boat, which was really really funny. But that's just a little aside. You fast travel there, you go to the Everdor, and then really emotional like kind of guitar sound starts playing. All of the other spirits that are in your boat start walking towards where like your little canoe is, um, and they kind of like post up and are kind of waiting for Gwen to start walking. And you have one more little conversation before you go into the canoe, where Gwen kind of calls to you. You go to talk to her, and she's like, are we really gonna do this? And then you say, yeah, it's time. This is something, and I don't know. I just got a little chicken
okay.
skin. But
That's okay.
I wish I could have walked with them. There's no
Mm,
walking mechanic with in this game. You just run basically, and your
right.
run is faster than the NPC's like walk speed. That's my cat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so I kind of would have loved to walk next to Gwen as she's going to, the canoe. But what I ended up doing, soon after that, after every walk that the NPC had to do, I was waiting with the other characters. And it just made it really cute, like a little ceremony that we had all together. And then Gwen gets on the canoe, then you get with the canoe with her. And then a new dialogue and animation kind of sequence starts playing where Stella is paddling. Sorry, my cats are fighting right now. Stella is paddling towards the Everdor with Gwen, and Gwen starts talking to Stella about everything that she feels in that moment. That she's a little bit nervous, but like she's ready to do it. That she wishes she would have been better in her life, or she wishes she would have done X or Y or Z. And you get this like raw emotion from these characters right before you send them through to the Everdor, until you finally get right in front of that beautiful bridge that makes just a perfect circle with its reflection. And Stella,
You share one last hug. One last hug.
exactly. So Gwen kind of stands up, and Stella always like runs and hugs the spirit one last time. And in the middle of that hug, the spirit kind of lifts itself and kind of goes through the Everdor and kind of disappears, But then, Ben, something crazy happens.
Yeah, you've just had this big emotional moment. Gwen, who you're not 100% sure on like the formal relationship between the two of you like your friends, you know each other, but it's all still a little vague. But regardless, it's an emotional moment.
No,
Like
so
it's
emotional.
you're basically delivering a friend to their death, essentially. It's very sad.
Yeah.
The whole vibe of the moment, like you said, the music, the hug, they're the characters kind of monologue as they go, very sad, but then boom, you're transported to this like astral plane almost.
Mm-hmm.
And in the astral plane, it's kind of like a small platforming sequence, but you have to, in order to progress it, you have to hit these certain points. And when you do, it shows you little cutscenes of these human figures. And it seems to be like a memory. I think in this one, it is like a sick person lying in a bed. And so you're like, okay, maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's Gwen potentially. Like I don't really know what's
I
going
think
on.
there's one picture
It's
of you as a child and another child
yeah,
running together or something
right.
like that.
It's these little tiny little kind of fragments of memories
Yeah.
basically that kind of piece themselves together as you go. But then this massive swooping figure flies in and confronts you at the peak of this kind of platforming, and he stares you down. He introduces himself as Hades,
Ooh, ooh.
and he's just like he's aura farming the whole time. He's this massive owl,
It really
this
is.
massive owl that's just staring you down. You're this tiny little girl, and he's like, but he's basically just like, man, it's so. He just kind of goes on a monologue, basically.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's very hard to tell in the moment if he's an adversary, if he's an ally.
100%.
Like
I thought he hates me. I'm like, bro,
exactly,
this
it's
guy
just
does not
very
want me to
unclear.
succeed.
It's very unclear, but he's just kind of saying things along the line of like, you and I's destinies are intertwined. Like I am kind of waiting for you at the end of this. You have more work to do, so why don't you get back to it? And then you're kind of kicked back out, back onto the boat, back with the rest of your spirits. And it just leaves you like, what just happened? Like,
Yeah.
first of all, who was that? Second of all, like, do I have beef with this guy? Like, I don't.
Am I
I'm not
about to
trying to
fight
be
an owl?
fighting Hades the owl right
Yeah.
now.
No, no,
Like,
no, no,
I'm
no.
not equipped for that fight. So, it, yeah, but yeah, a very big moment, I would say, and it kind of leaves you with a lot more questions as to
Yeah.
what's going on.
And it wants you to, it kind of like makes you want to take that next spirit to the Everdor. Not that you're pushing them, but you're like, hey, if anyone's ready, I want to see the owl again, and I want to see that kind of platforming sequence, those fragmented memories, try to piece together this story. You get back on your boat and you have a new item that pops up in Gwen's house. So you build everyone their own personal house. They give you these blueprints of the materials that are required, and then they get really happy when they get into their house. Then you can upgrade their house, and when you upgrade it fully, that's kind of the way that you progress their quest, their story, and then eventually them being ready for the Everdoor. But once their house is fully upgraded, once you do their quest, once you take them to the Everdoor, you get back on the boat and you find they leave a little item for you. Maybe they don't leave it intentionally, but there's an item waiting for you in the house. And you go in and it is your first spirit flower. So every character has their own kind of spirit flower, all unique flowers that they leave behind once they cross through the Everdoor. And it's the way the game is telling you that this is kind of like their memory or their legacy of them that they are leaving you. And guess what, Ben? Then the game is like, use that sucker as currency, baby. Bring that boy to Albert and he's going to make your boat really cool. And I was like, I don't want to give the spirit flower that Gwen just gave me to Albert. What the hell?
I have an embarrassing confession. So right after delivering Gwen to the Spirit Door, the game kind of tells you, hey, you need to bring the Spirit Flower to Albert. He's going to upgrade your boat, and that's going to let you access different areas of the map. So I'm on my way to Albert, and I'm like, all right, my boat is getting a little crowded here. So maybe I just remove Gwen's house.
Oh my God, you monster. You monster.
So I go into the blueprint, and the game is like, absolutely not. You are not allowed to remove Gwen's house. And I felt bad about it. I was like, man, it does seem a little messed up in retrospect that I tried to do that.
You're such a monster, but I tried it, of course. Everyone tries it. Obviously, everyone tries it, and the game slaps me in the face and says, no, can't do that. I tried it too. But no, it is funny that, like, you know, you get this like beautiful relic, you know, from this sentimental moment, and then you use it and you just give it to Albert and he upgrades your boat. But as Ben says, basically the map is kind of segmented in a way where you can only access certain areas depending on, you know, if you've upgraded your boat or not. And they make it so that, you know, in the north of the map has like, there's some like ice or whatever that the boat needs to crush through so that it can access it. At the bottom of the map, there's like fog and you need like a lantern or whatever to be able to go through it. So there's, you know, that's the kind of the game gatekeeping you, and, you know, that progression is more literal in that way. But now that you can access a different area, then you can get more spirits. You can get different items like, oh, you only had maple trees at this point, but now you can access oak or pine or whatever the next one is. And oh, okay, finally I can upgrade this character's quest, or oh, finally I can build this facility that will help me, like, I don't know, do X, Y, or Z. So you completely have your kind of into right now of the gameplay loop. You completely understand it, and it's just kind of repeats itself 2 or 3 more times. But at this point, maybe once you get a couple of spirits from this next area, maybe you have an orchard now or something with Alice, who is the next character that I got. And she like teaches you how to, like, you know, harvest apples or whatever, which, hey, it's a money making machine. Let me tell you, I was selling those fruit every day. And you get your glims, which is the currency of this game. It's like your gold. It's called glims. You start becoming so ADHD about this freaking game because there's so much going on. There's a point where I had like 6 spirits in my boat. They're all hungry. They're all mad at me. They all have quests. I have, like, you know, 4 trees that I need to take care of. I have my gardens. I have my foundry. I have my sawmill. I have my loom. I just, there's so much, and I don't even have time to fish. I stopped fishing. What's the point of fishing? I only fished at the beginning. Then I was like, bro, I'm just gonna feed you grilled vegetables every single day. Everyone's vegetarian, baby. I'm not gonna
Yes.
waste my time doing other stuff, you know. But it
I
really, you can lose so many hours playing this game. Like there's genuinely. I know
yeah.
it's not an action game or anything, but the time escapes you. Like you can do tasks for 2 hours and you won't feel it.
Totally. I have like mixed feelings about it because yeah, like you said, at this point in the game, this is when the gameplay really takes off and it gets that quality to it where it's very similar to like a Stardew Valley or it's very similar to sort of a management game like that where there's always an immediate task you can doing and there's always a motivation to like there's always that feeling of like okay just one more day just one more day just
Yeah.
one more day like I just got to do this and then I'll be done. Oh okay, now I just got to do this. Oh but this is right there, I'm just going to go do this. And it gets so ADHD and it hooks you in from a gameplay
Oh
perspective
yeah.
because like some people may not like that but I in general I like that kind of game. um so I was like zipping all around the boat. I was like sawing logs, cutting trees. I was, harvesting fruit. I was, throwing in a quick hug every now and then. But so it like really hooked me in from that perspective. But at the same time, like that kind of frenetic nature of it caused me to like lose some of the connection with like the story of the game, if that makes sense.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it had such an ADHD quality to it that like I almost didn't have the like mental capacity to kind of process what else was happening. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Oh, for sure. I think you totally get lost in that, and something that I kind of expressed in the Discord was that there's constant interruption by these NPCs and your spirits because of course that's the point of the game. The point of the game is that you develop these relationships again because again as we've alluded to, these people, or maybe they allude to you that they know you from real life, and you want to build that relationship, kind of learn their lessons, find this emotional moment between the characters so that eventually you take them to the Everdor and you kind of have this catharsis in that moment. But I was like, don't talk to me, brother. I need to go like check out my fruit, bro. Like what is going on? I was like, don't talk to me at all. And it just yeah, definitely took away from the experience a little bit because I found them annoying. And you shouldn't find them annoying. You shouldn't find these
Yeah.
beautiful characters annoying because that's not the point of the game. And so
Yeah.
if you ever play this game, maybe it's just not how Ben and I roll. We have to play these games within the month so that we can record. But if you can take maybe a little bit more time so that, and slow the game down a little bit, it might work for you. But I couldn't do it. I was like, don't talk to me anymore. So I feel
Yeah.
like the first 10 to 15 hours, I was reading every single conversation. I was trying to take my time with them. And then the next 15 hours, I was like, X, 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 X. I was like, I don't really care what you're saying right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I did care, but not too much anymore. I need to go through all of my tasks so I can eventually finish this game one day.
Yeah. And that like so kind of what we described is kind of how most of the rest of the game proceeds.
Yeah.
You upgrade your boat, you increase like the building space on the boat, which lets you build new buildings. You periodically bring spirits to the spirit door, which gives you more flowers, which lets you kind of put stuff on your boat that gives you access to new areas. And so you're picking up, all these new spirits um, that all have their own stories. Meanwhile, you're doing all of these little quests, you're doing all of these little chores around the boat, basically. And so, kind of with that, like, I felt in kind of the core gameplay segment when most of the game happens, I felt that there were some spirits that really worked, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt that there were some that, like, didn't work as much.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one spirit that you mentioned already, Alice, is
Oh,
like this little porky or hedgehog, a
yeah.
little hedgehog. She's this little old lady.
Oh, my
She
heart.
like doesn't want to impose. She just like kind of walks on your boat and she's so sweet. She has like a wardrobe where she lets you change your outfits. She's got her romance novels where she asks you to bring her to like a location, and she kind of plays out the scene from a romance novel. But from that point on, it becomes very obvious that she's like slowing down a lot, and she starts to have some memory stuff where it seems like maybe there might be some dementia or something like that creeping in.
Yeah.
She starts like confusing you with her daughter to the point where you have to dress up as her daughter to
Ah,
like
dude.
progress her quest, which was
I
heartbreaking.
know. It's so
Um,
heartbreaking.
to the point where she just like basically can't function anymore, and you yourself kind of have to make the call of being like, all right, let's go to the spirit tour.
You have to walk her too. Speaking of walking earlier, where you can't
Yeah,
walk, like even like you have a task every day for those like maybe two-day cycles that you have to walk her, and she wants to go to the pier and or the front of the boat or whatever, and or the
yeah,
back of the boat, I guess. And you walk her to it, and it's so slow, and the game takes its time, and it's really emphasizing like what it feels like to walk someone of that age, or in that like physical and mental state, which is damn, dude. Like the game really can pull some heartstrings for sure,
yeah.
because that's very. It made me very emotional. I think Alice. I think Gwen is a very emotional moment because it's the first time.
Yeah.
Alice hit me really hard. It hit me really,
Mm-hmm.
really hard with, my own grandmother who is 94 right now and I have such a beautiful relationship with and she's in the same kind of boat, I guess, in the same way that Alice is. So anyways, that made me really emotional. And it was a tough one. That one was a tough one for
Yeah,
sure.
agreed. So there's these really bright moments of big emotional catharsis with certain characters like Alice and like Summer. But there's some other ones that I thought like didn't work as well in my opinion. Like for example, one of the characters you meet is Astrid, and Astrid is this big lioness. You meet her
Lynx, baby.
because
She's a lynx.
is she?
Yeah,
Oh, I
dude.
didn't know that.
Hmm.
Okay. So Astrid is a lynx. Excuse me. Excuse me. I didn't mean to
she's
misanimal
fabulous.
somebody. Um, um, but you meet Astrid by she's essentially leading a union strike at
Yeah.
the headquarters of like the raccoon capitalist
Down
guys.
with the
Um,
raccoon.
so she's like negotiating with the union. You have to like help her in the negotiation. They win, and she's like, "All right, I'll come aboard now." And she comes aboard, and she's a great character. But she also introduces you to another character, which is Giovanni, and
Mm-hmm.
Giovanni is
Tusk.
her, yeah, it's her husband. But she, has makes all these allusions to Giovanni kind of being a dirtbag, kind of like running around on her. There's some allusions to him stealing throughout the game. And the first kind of story moments with Astrid all revolve around finding Giovanni. So you have to like go to all these sources and hear rumors about where Giovanni is, and eventually you track him down and find him, and you bring him back aboard the ship. So now they're together again, and it's like okay, very sweet, whatever. They're together. Giovanni is like slipping you some like necklaces and jewelry under the table as his little contribution, which is funny. And he's a funny character. Like I
He
thought,
is.
I
He
thought
is.
like dialogue wise, he was very
I
funny.
also love that he's
Um,
smaller than Astrid. Like he's a
right,
lion, but he's kind of tiny. And
yeah,
Astrid is a lynx, but she's really big, which I like that they did that.
yeah. But as you like progress their story, you essentially catch Giovanni cheating on her
I
again,
know, dude. Freaking
again.
Giovanni.
And so you bring him back on board, and Astrid kicks him out of the house they share on your ship, and like Giovanni is now just kind of lazing around. He asks you to like build him a bar basically,
Yeah,
so you do that, and then eventually he's just like, all right, I'm kind of done.
I'm
Like
done. Take
you can
me.
bring me to the spirit gate now. I'm like, okay, whatever. But then you bring him to the spirit gate, and the game tries to have like the same emotional payoff with him. Like it gives him his moment of the monologue. You get the hug, the big music swells, and off he goes through the door. And it's like I get that, but like I mean, he's kind of just like a scumbag, right? Like,
Yeah.
why are we? I don't know. It just didn't work for me in the same way. And
I uh
I get like it's a very realistic thing, right? People are often in these very complicated relationships that don't fit into a box, but I don't know. That one in particular, like it didn't really work as well for me as some of the others.
I thought it worked so good in
Okay.
for me at least, because the way I thought the taking Giovanni to the Everdor and his dialogue was some of the best dialogue in the game. And I actually wrote down one of his quotes, but it got me. Like he was able to get to my heart, which is what he's been doing to Astrid this whole time. And that's why I think it works so well, because it shows that emotional
Yeah.
intelligence almost that he has, that even in that, like, he's literally in the worst moment of his, I guess not life, his afterlife, and he's ready to go to the Everdor, and he finds a way to be charming, to tell you exactly what you want to hear, to kind of side with him one last time, even though he is a scumbag and he's a dirtbag. But I was like, damn, that's why Astrid has been with him this whole time. But he says, I've never deserved you anyway, but I've loved you. And that won't stop, even if I'm not around anymore. The ones who love you never leave you. And
Yeah.
it's just like, damn, it's true. And I was like, yeah, Giovanni, you charming son of a dog. You know, it's like, I love you, bro. Give me a hug. But no, he sucks. Obviously, like in real life, he sucks. But
Yeah.
I,
No,
I,
I actually think that's a fantastic point. I didn't think about it kind of in the same way that you did in terms of like how he presents himself. But that's a great point.
oh,
I love that.
thank you, Benny. We know Video Game Book Club right here for you. But I agree, though, to your point. Let's talk about a couple other characters.
Yeah.
I do have to say, before we get into that, I do have something that I want to talk about. And let me pull up here. I wrote down the characters that I got in order. So I think the way that this was supposed to go is I got Gwen, Atul, Summer, Alice, then Astrid. And I didn't get Giovanni after I got Gustav, Bruce and Mikey, Beverly, and then finally Giovanni. I got Giovanni super late, even though Giovanni was in the second or third-ish area of the game, but I got him in the fourth area of the game because I completely missed him. Astrid was like, yo, you need to talk to Olga or whatever, or one of the turtles. And Olga will tell you where Giovanni is. And for some reason, my brain didn't see that big red turtle in the second area or in the ice area until like I was literally traveling through every big city. I was traveling everywhere to find Giovanni because we mentioned that every character teaches you how to do something, but every character also teaches you how to do an event. There's these events all over the map that do different things and give you different items. So like Atul teaches you how to catch lightning. And so you have lightning in a bottle, which is an item that you need. Gwen teaches you how to like catch these like spirits, I don't know, these jellies or something, which again is an item. There's like fire glows or whatever. There's different stuff. So Giovanni teaches you how to catch these comet rocks or something like that. And if you don't have those comet rocks, you can't progress the game. And I had all these characters. At this point, I had like, again, this is where I had like 5 or 6 characters. And I was going bananas because I couldn't get it. And it honestly cost me like 3 to 5 hours of the game because I missed them. Now, it's my fault. I completely like am saying that it's my fault. But it was just really, really annoying because then I had progressed so much these characters in their quests that as soon as I got Giovanni and as soon as I like did that event like 10 times to get all the items I needed, every character was ready to go. Like I had a play session where I sent through the Everdor like Astrid, Gustav, Bruce, and Mikey, Beverly, and Giovanni back to back to back to back to back. And then I had no one in my boat. And I found Buck and then Stanley or whatever, but it just felt like I kind of messed the progression. And this is like a personal thing, probably didn't happen to many people, but it was a little bit like it cut my rhythm and the momentum that I had in the game a little bit because I missed that, which it sucks a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean maybe there's something to be said there about the way like quests are shown on the map and like how
the map,
kind of how the navigation and stuff like that. Like I think that can be better in some aspects.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean,
But
there's a lot of quality of life stuff that I wish the game had, which, since we're talking about it now, like, you have a recipe book and there's like 110 recipes or something. And every time you cook something, you can combine two items or you can cook one item by itself. You find a recipe, let's say. Scrolling through the recipe book to find a recipe, but then having to exit the recipe book to then go to like the cooking menu, find the two items and put them together was so annoying to me, where it could have been really easy. I go to the recipe book, I find the thing that I want to cook, and then I just press X there. Like, let me cook it from the recipe book so I don't have to remember and go back to the other side. And I don't know, there's a couple of things like that, very minute things that made the game just slightly annoying in some aspects, that it didn't make me want to cook, even though I found all the recipes.
Yeah, there is a lot of tiny quality of life stuff like that. I had kind of similar moments where I was like missing one key thing to progress to like the next area, because you need certain amounts of spirit flowers to get the boat upgrade that lets you go to the next area.
Yeah.
And I was missing like one flower, and I was basically waiting on one character. And it just so happened that this character, their events were like time based. And so I was like sitting around on my boat for like 2 days in a row, basically. Just like waiting to progress the quest, because there's nothing else I could do. I was like, I've got all the resources I need. I have no active quests. All I can do is go to the next area right now, and I just have to wait for this one character.
Yeah.
So, and I also, so the spirit that I missed was Buck.
Okay.
But Buck, I don't think gives any resource, so that didn't end up being like
yeah, he does. He gives he does. He has that he gives you XP potions, which you need for your
right,
final...
but that's super late.
It's a lot later. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he is available sort of a little earlier in the game than
as soon as you get the bounce ability, I think he's available, which is
right. So that was like the only kind of asynchronous thing I had. But yeah, in general, I definitely agree. There's a lot of like quality of life stuff that other kind of management type games might have thought about. This one doesn't have, but
I think I think I got Buck before Giovanni, like, honestly, or something like that, because or maybe I got Giovanni and then I got Buck or something, but I still needed to like send Giovanni home, because then Astrid goes again. Like, I just messed up my order so bad. But I remember because I did that, I couldn't build Buck a house. And he was so sad. And he was walking around the boat. And he's like, every time I talked to him, he had like the least amount of happiness, or like the most, sadness. And he was like, I want a house. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, dude. I can't get you that. But again, we've talked about kind of like the loop of the game and how everything goes. And eventually, though, once maybe there's a certain amount of spirits that you have to take through the Everdor, where you get your next encounter with Hades, and you encounter Hades 3 times total. Whenever you bring your second character through the Everdor, which for me was Summer, there was something that was missing. You bring Gwen and you think, okay, every time I bring a character through the Everdor, I get, of course, dialogue with them, I get a final hug, and then maybe I'll get some more memories so I can piece together this story. But I remember I mentioned it in the Discord that I was like, hey, I just did the second character, and it was weird that I didn't get anything. And everyone was like, oh, you'll find out later or something. And I was like, oh, okay. So then you bring 3 or 4 or 5 or something, and then you finally get that second piece of the puzzle, where you do your platforming again, you see more, fragmented memories. Maybe I think this time is where you see like someone, I think you see Stella with like a charming gentleman, and like on vacation or something, or that's what it seemed like to you. And Stella's yellow, and then the other guy was red or orangey or something like that. Then you see someone is laying in bed, in a hospital bed, and they're in their final moments, and you kind of see these memories again that don't really mean that much to you. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, there's a character probably on the boat or somewhere that went on vacation with Stella or something. You don't know. Then there's a character that dies. Okay, well, maybe that was Alice, or maybe that was X or Y. But then you talk to Hades again, And again, he's not the most welcoming character that you've met, and he's kind of like he actually. I think he like challenges you, or farming. He challenges you a little bit. He kind of like asks you like you don't even understand, like kind of like being a Spiritfarer. Like I need more from you or something like that. He challenges you to keep going and kind of like put all of this together. So there's 14 characters total. There's a bunch. And we've talked about a lot of them. I think one of the most fun kind of character that they give you are Bruce and Mikey. Bruce being a small, really tiny hummingbird that I actually didn't even see when I met them for the first time. And then Mikey, who is this like giant
bull.
Oh, giant bull. Thank you. Oh my God, the name escaped me. Who's a giant silent too. He doesn't talk, but Bruce speaks for him. And Bruce is like, there's no voice acting in this game, so you kind of have to like in my head, I was kind of like making a voice for these characters, but I can just totally see Bruce having this like high pitched voice, like, "Hey man, Mikey wants this food, bro, and he wants it right now, and Mikey doesn't even play. If you don't get him a lobster roll, I'm gonna mess you up, bro." And it's like, oh my God, they're such bullies, that I made a lobster roll for Bruce. For Mikey, I mean. And Bruce is like, "Dude, don't you know that Mikey hates crustaceans or something like that?" He's like, "Don't you know that he hates like seafood? Why the hell would you give me a lobster roll?" And I was like, "You just asked me for one, dude. You're such a bully. I kind of don't like you that much, But they're great character designed, honestly.
Yeah, I thought that was the best. I thought that was the best character design in the game, was the giant bull and the tiny hummingbird.
Tiny hummingbird.
Pulls him and flies him around.
Yeah, Mikey doesn't walk. Yeah, Bruce picks him up.
I wanted to like that character so bad because they were so funny and their interactions with them were so funny. But I think it highlighted one of the shortcomings of the narrative for me, because if you just take Bruce and Mikey, I think it's Mickey, I'm not sure.
Oh, is it? Oh, I feel like I was saying Mikey, Mickey.
I might be wrong. No. But if you take their story like in a vacuum, it's basically they come on the boat, they make all these demands of you. They're like, "Oh, we're going to make you part of our crew," basically. Like, but you got to prove yourself. You got to work your way up the ranks. And you're like, "All right, whatever." So you do all this stuff for them. You like gain their respect. And then they like send you on a bunch of errands. And then you'll come back and you'll be like, "Okay, I did it." And they're like, no, that's all wrong. Go do this instead. No, that's all wrong. Go do this instead. And then you come back again, and Bruce is just like defeated. He's like, I'm done. Like, let's go somewhere. Basically, you want to go somewhere? Let's go somewhere. And you kind of take that to mean, okay, I guess that's the spirit door. And that's their cue to bring them to the spirit door. You have the moment with them, the hug, everything, send them through. And so in a vacuum, like that story wasn't super impactful, but, and this gets into more of like the meta narrative that we're going to be talking about now, basically, which is that like all of these characters were people Stella knew from real life. So as you go, you're essentially piecing together that Stella in the real world was herself like a nurse. So she was taking care of all of these patients in the hospital. Like Summer was a patient, Alice was a patient, and Bruce and Mickey, Mickey got in like a really bad car accident because he was driving drunk or something like that. And he's kind of in a vegetative state now. And so Bruce is, he's being the mouthpiece like he always is. He's talking for his brother. He's like kind of making all these plans of what they're going to do once, Mickey is recovered. But then he just kind of like, he realizes essentially that Mickey's not really coming back, and he kind of loses the will to go on. And that's a really compelling thing. Like that's super compelling, but the game doesn't give you that in the game. You don't really learn that story unless you go to like the external. There's like an art book basically that comes with the game, and it tells you like in depth the story of every character. And that adds like so much emotion to these stories. but you just don't get it in the
Yeah.
game. So like there's characters like Bruce and Mickey that just kind of leave you being like, okay, whatever. Or like Astrid and Giovanni is another great example. They're in real life, or real life. They're this like older couple that's been together their whole lives. They're this like, essentially bonded together. Giovanni's this rascal essentially, but that's just kind of the way they are. They're together to the end. That adds so much like emotion to the game, but you don't get those bits of the narrative. And like I don't know how intentional of a choice that was by the developers to kind of make you search for that information kind of, but I don't know. I feel like it was an opportunity to like really add a lot more to the layers of this game by giving you more of like the backstory and the lore of like the real world components to some of these spirits. I don't know if you felt the same way, but
I
that's kind of the vibe I got.
I did, and I especially didn't feel it with, or I didn't really feel it that much with Bruce and Mickey, but I did with like Gustav, for example, where I felt Gustav was the most boring
Yeah,
passenger that I had in my boat. Now, my man can, play the heck out of a violin. That dude was
yes,
jamming, and I loved his
love it.
music. But
Yeah,
besides that, he was kind of boring. And then you come to find out that Gustav was like a summer love that Stella had in real life when she was, I don't know, visiting Montreal or Japan or in one of her kind of excursions. And I was thinking, damn, like they didn't show any of that. Like it would have been beautiful to
exactly.
see like that reunion a little bit more palpable, maybe a little more intentional too. And so I really felt it with him because well, now we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but I think it's time to talk about the third encounter that you have with Hades. Once you, again, all these characters, you do their quests, they're ready to go, they teach you maybe a life lesson or something, or maybe they teach themselves a life lesson once they're ready to go to the Everdoor, and then you find Hades once more, and you have a bigger mural this time, like a really big kind of memory fragment that you piece together. It's actually 4 different memory fragments that are like kind of in a diamond shape to kind of show you that Stella, is actually the one in a hospital bed, and you have your family around you, and you are the one who is dying or / has died. And
Right.
it's basically the game telling you that it's your time soon to go through the Everdoor and to go to the beyond. So you talk to Hades once more. Again, he's a little bit challenging to you, but he kind of like, that's the next challenge basically, is when are you going to be ready? And when are you going to fulfill like what your duty is, which is you have to ferry yourself, which is a lot harder than ferrying someone else, right, to the Everdoor. So that's tough. You go back to your boat and you find a different character, a new character that is in your boat, who she's not a spirit. She takes the form of like she has like a human silhouette made out of like leaf petals,
Yeah.
like petals
Yeah.
from a flower. And you find that that's Lily, and Lily is your sister, and she's kind of trying to talk to you. How? Well, you can interpret that in different ways. Maybe she's trying to talk to you while you're in the hospital bed, and or maybe she's just a fragment of your imagination or something. But what you have to do is you go through to the like 4 big cities of the world. There's a shrine in each of those cities, and Lily basically recounts your life story to you. She talks about how when they were kids and their parents would bring them to summer vacations, and Gwen would come, and you and Gwen always played together. You were like sisters, and Gwen felt like our family was her family because her like maybe life wasn't like that good or whatever. And but Lily also has her reservations, right? It's like when you talk to your sibling or something, and you're like, and you always made me feel like a little girl, but I wasn't a little girl, but she was a little girl. Then she talks about Gustav, and then she talks about how she moved to Montreal and she was neighbors with Beverly, and that's why Beverly recognizes her, and she works at the hospital, and she had all these different patients. But then she got lost so much in taking care of her patients that she forgot to take care of her family. And Lily's a little bit like, you forgot about me, you forgot about dad, you forgot about mom, dad died and this and that, and Atul died, Uncle Atul or whatever. And so then, oh my God, all of these characters start hitting you left and right and left and right. And you get this beautiful and emotional sequence through all those 4 shrines. And Lily is kind of like, telling you all that. I also find funny that Lily kind of gets mad at you for taking Daffodil with you. She's kind of like, and you also took Daffodil with you. Daffodil was like our family cat, but like you also had to do that. She's, yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's very human. And I think the writing of what Lily says is exactly what a sibling would say to another sibling. So I thought that was really great. You go through that, and then basically the next quest that you have for yourself is take yourself to the Everdoor. Now, at this point, you can, if you want, and you can finish the game right there and then. Or, you still have some spirits in your boat, so you can, kind of finish their quests and maybe find a couple more shrines and a couple more abilities and maybe finish, building out your boat or whatever. But basically, at this point, the game is ending.
Yeah. So this is where we get into like some of my beef with the game.
Oh, beefs with Benny.
Yeah. So at this point in the game, right, the end is there. You can be done with the game. But there's like, I think you need a minimum of like 8 spirits to be done with the game. But I think there's like 12 in total or something.
14.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So you essentially, there's like all these spirits out there, and there's like, that emotional pull to be like, you can't abandon these spirits. Like, you got to go find them and bring them to the door before you go yourself. Like, that's your duty as the Spiritfarer. So there's a pull, and you're probably like, I mean, I was having fun with the game at this point. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to keep playing. Like, I'm going to look for some more spirits. From that point on, like the last few spirits in the game becomes like a grind. Yeah. Like, some of the later game materials take a really long time to make. They, we kind of talked about all of the different facilities on your boat that make stuff have like a little mini game associated with them. And one of the latest game ones, the Foundry, is or the Smithy maybe?
The Smithy.
But it takes so long. You have to put all the materials in, you have to wait for them to, smelt together, and then they come out, and then you have a hammer, and you have to hit the material the exact number of times with the exact, amount of strength to make it done. The whole and it takes so long. And it's not like, some of them, like cooking, for example, you can put it in there and go do something else and come back to it. This isn't like that. No. It takes a long time, and you have to be there the whole time, basically. So some of the later game materials, like, just slow it down so much. As you get to like the later stages of the game, like, for example, 2 of the last spirits I did were Jackie and Daria, who I really love the narrative of. Jackie is like a nurse that works at a hospital that's super run down. He's like overworked. Daria is a patient that's like very hard to deal with, basically. And you essentially go throughout the world and like improve this hospital. You make it like a functioning hospital and improve the lives of everyone there. And it's like a really great narrative, but it takes so long because you're like waiting for all these little triggers to happen of like, Jackie gives you a pager. And so you're waiting for him to contact you on the pager so you can go back and advance the quest, and then you got to go again and wait again. And then he calls you, and then you go back. So it's such a great story, but it just exemplifies how the game like really slows down in that final moment. Yeah. So I feel like I got to the point where I could be done with it, where I could bring myself to the Everdoor. And then there was another solid like 4 to 5 hours of gameplay of just like grinding to get like the last couple spirits. And it like really disconnected me from the narrative of the game by the time, like, to the point where when I was ready to go, I was like, I'm kind of ready for this game to be done. Like, I'm a little over it. Like, it's kind of annoying me at this point. Like, I just kind of want to be done. So yeah, I don't know. Like, the emotional payoff of the game is so great, and like the way the narrative unfolds is so great. Um, but man, like I just wish, I don't know. I don't even have like a suggestion of how to make that process better. But yeah, that the late game grind kind of just took me out of it a little bit. I don't know.
I think it depends on if you enjoy, the kind of mechanics of the game. Um, and if you want to experience more, I think the game is giving you a pass, like, hey, this is kind of what we have to offer. 8 spirits is kind of like the right amount of time, maybe the average amount of time to spend with the game. You have kind of a choice. Hey, you have to bring yourself to the Everdor. It's the player's choice, just like Stella.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
you can end it here and you have like experienced exactly what we wanted you to experience. Or if you really love this game, you can do a little bit more. We'll give you another 10 hours of gameplay, up to you. It's kind of how I interpreted it, but I completely agree with you. It was a huge grind. And what I did was, it's NBA playoff season, baby. So I would put an NBA game on, a playoffs game on, and I would just freaking grind all night, and I would have like 3-hour long sessions, just freaking going ham at the smithy and doing different, getting XP potions or whatever. And it was a really good, like a company game, like not a game that I could focus on 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a game like that, where you can just put on one screen, put on a game on the other screen, and just kind of go to town a little bit. So that worked for me. But I completely agree. It was a huge grind. I think because I had that grind in the middle, again, like I took like 5 or 6 spirits in like one gaming session because I was so advanced in the request, but I was missing that one character because I forgot him. And so then I only had Buck, Stanley, Jackie, Daria, and Elena, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, and I kind of, Stanley was kind of easy. Again, like, Ben is saying, Jackie, he just pages you and you just, it got to the point for me where like I had advanced everything else so much that I would leave the island and I wasn't even like in my next destination over, and I already was getting a pager. Hey, come back. I was like, okay. And then I would turn around. Like that happened like 4 times. Like I literally was away for like a second and I came back. So actually Jackie and Daria was pretty quick for me.
Okay.
But what wasn't quick was maybe Stanley, Buck, and Giovanni, because I just kind of got them at a weird time. Speaking of Stanley, I think we can kind of wrap up. But I just want to talk about Stanley a little bit because Stanley is a completely different character than all the other ones that you get, because Stanley is a child. He's a kid.
Yeah.
And this is like the game reminding you, and it's a really sad reminder, that children also die, and they also become spirits, I guess, in this lore, that need to be taken care of and that need to be taken to the Everdor. But they don't really understand, even in this form, like what that is. And Stanley hits like a brick. He is scared. He tells you that he feels cold and he just doesn't really know what's going to happen, and you just have to console him just like you would a kid, and man, Stanley was tough. I think that was another one that was really, really tough. So I just wanted to highlight that.
So you're 100% right. Like realizing what's going on with Stanley is like one of the most crushing moments of the game.
Yeah.
But so you get Stanley on your boat in kind of an interesting way. Like all the other spirits, you just find them on an island, you invite them aboard, whatever. But Stanley, the way you get him is by fishing him up. Essentially, you fish and you reel in like this packet of mysterious seeds. You plant the seeds and they grow into a mushroom, and when you pluck the mushroom, it's Stanley and he's there, and it's like very funny. But
Funny.
I think I was at a point in the game where like I needed Stanley to continue because I needed the item that's associated with him to keep going. So I was like, I don't know how to get this resource. Like, what do I do? So I go on Google. I'm like, how do I get whatever resource, whatever Stanley has, bottled ectoplasm, I think it is. And the first result is a Reddit thread, and the Reddit thread is asking exactly what I was asking. It's basically like, I'm stuck. I need bottled ectoplasm to continue. I have no idea where to get it. And every single comment in this thread is someone being like, oh my god, this thread is magic. Right after I read this thread, it happened. But no one's saying how to do it. No one's saying how to do it. And I'm like, dude, what? Like, I just need the answer. Like, what am I supposed to do? But every comment is just like, this thread is unbelievable. It's like a 5-year-old thread. It's like, this thread is literally magic. As soon as I read this thread, it happened for me. And I was like, what? So I go back in my game. I'm like, dude, I don't know what to do. I like set a course, and while I'm on my way, I cast a line. The first thing I catch is the packet of seeds
Let's
with
go,
Stanley. I was like, dude, the magic Reddit
The
thread, it
magic
actually
Reddit
worked.
thread.
What's going on? So I don't know. I just thought that was funny. But shout out to the magic Reddit thread. You got me where I needed to go. I love it.
Dude, that's incredible. I love video game Reddit thread questions. They are the best. Like, I didn't understand how like the every city in the map has like a checklist of items that you can get, or like chests that you can find or whatever. But the way that like they're presented, it sometimes it makes it seem like you haven't gotten the thing that you actually did get. So the way that they do it is like every freaking game, if you have that type of like quest, there's a little check mark or like a little bubble, and it's filled in when you got it, and it isn't when you haven't gotten it. Well, for some reason, Spiritfarer is backwards, because things regrow. So if you got wood there, you can get it again. So basically the checklist, the way it works is if it has a bubble on it, you can get it and have gotten it before. But if it doesn't have a bubble on it, you already got it. So there's a rare chest that is a grayed out and there's no bubble on it. And I'm like thinking, well, I haven't gotten it. I have to go get it, and I need to fill in that bubble. But it's actually backwards, which was really annoying. But
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Okay.
it. But the
So
Reddit thread saved me, basically, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That I found something that explained that.
But so we're at the end of the game. We have, you've taken however many spirits you want to, basically, to the door. It's now time for Stella to go herself. You bring the boat to the Evergate. It's pretty much just you at this point. There's Buck actually still on the ship because he never goes to the Everdoor for some reason, the Evergate. Um, but so it's just you, and you go to you're kind of lonely. Like this whole game, you've had a billion different things to do, but now it's just you, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, you're kind of by yourself at the end of this. It's a little sad, but then you get to the Evergate, and all of the spirits like reappear on the boat in like a ghost form,
So cute.
and there's this really really heartwarming moment where you can go and like give them one last hug essentially before going. So I know you had a big reaction to that.
Oh, dude, I loved it so much. I went to hug every single spirit. I wanted to kind of get that last little moment. It was so emotional, and it's so it's just so somber. It's just sad. Like what's about to happen is really. It's like it's funny because and we'll talk a little bit about how we interpret this game, because I have a really big like interpretation in my head of what the game is trying to convey. But Stella has died already, or is in the process of dying, and this is her letting go finally. And actually that's kind of the accomplishment that you get on Steam, is called Let It Go. And but it's still sad. It's weird, because these spirits, they've died already. Like they have crossed it, and us as humans that are living right now, we think about that as a really sad thing, of course, because it hurts us, and it's just really impactful in a negative way, But you still feel sad that the spirit is going through the Everdoor, even though they've already passed. And they're going to hopefully something, better, something beautiful, like they're the actual afterlife, not in this like limbo area. But it just, the game just has a way to make it so emotional and sad, and again, just kind of cathartic at the end when you have this long sequence of Stella just by herself with Daffodil, just paddling all the way to the Everdoor. And then she kind of gets up, she hugs Stella really tight. She hugs Daffodil really tight. And then they both just kind of levitate towards the Everdoor, and they disappear into the beyond, I guess. And then the credits roll, and it leaves you in such a just emotional state.
Yeah, I really like the ending. There's like a very emotional moment where every time you bring a spirit to the Everdor, they're essentially a constellation, like
Hmm.
representing them in some way, gets added to the night sky, and you can like see them throughout the game. So like they're still with you in a way, like kind of like we talked about. So yeah, Stella's constellation gets added to the night sky. It's her big hat, that is the silhouette. Um, and yeah, a very emotional moment. I was almost like wondering if there would be kind of a final confrontation with Hades to end the
Hmm.
game, and when there wasn't, I was a little surprised by that. Um, but yeah, in general, I mean, I thought it was a great ending. I thought we'll talk about our theories as to kind of deeper meaning of the game in part two, because we've got a very philosophical question
I
from one
was
of our
saving, yeah,
listeners.
that's why I'm saving my
Yeah.
theory for that.
But yeah, I mean, in general, I thought this was a great game. Like, I thought it does what it's trying to do pretty well. I think there's like some quality of life stuff that could have improved it. And I also thought that, like, I don't know, incorporating some more of the kind of meta narrative of like Stella as the palliative care nurse, kind of taking care of these people as they die, and how that ties into kind of the main narrative of the game. I thought that could have like really benefited the game in some ways, because I think like you get kind of the crumbs to piece that together for yourself like at the very end, but then you're kind of doing it in retrospect. You
Mhm.
kind of have to go back and say, "Oh, this is why that matters. Oh, this is why they were like that." Whereas like if you had the information like Stanley or like, Mickey and Bruce, like it would have made those moments like so much more impactful, I thought, to me. But um yeah, I mean, I can't fault the game too much. I really liked it. It was like for sure one of the more emotional games I've played in a while. So yeah, I appreciate it for that.
Definitely. I appreciate it immensely too. I think it helps all of us. I think it could help any person playing this game. We all experience loss. That's something that kind of makes us human, is that all of us will experience loss and all of us will die eventually. And so it's great that different mediums kind of challenge us to think about that aspect of life and experience it in different ways, just like reading a book or a song, talking about it. Of course, I think if we have experienced loss, we have songs associated to when we have that kind of emotion coming out of us. But video games can do the same thing, and it's beautiful that people that don't know games think that games are just dumb, but it's games like these that really make you enjoy the art form that games are. And it's beautiful that Video Game Book Club can kind of experience that together.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it there and we will take a break and talk more about Spiritfarer. We will answer questions that the community has sent to us on the Discord. And of course, Ben and I have prepared a couple of questions for each other. But we'll be right back after this. Welcome to part 2 of Video Game Book Club, where we answer questions that the community has sent to us via Discord. That is the best way for you guys to contribute to the community, engage with the community, engage with us, is to join our Discord. We have the link everywhere, but it's in the bio. It's in our channel. We talk about the game of the month, as we discussed. We talk about other games that the community has played, and we just have really good vibes there. So join the club. Ben, I'm going to throw it over to you to ask the first question.
I will. So if you've listened to the podcast before, you know his name. Our first question is from our favorite Joe, number one fan. And Joe, you might have picked up Joe. Joe's always got some good
Oh,
questions, and
yeah.
let me tell you, he really outdid
good.
himself here. So I'm gonna ask you this question.
Oh, God.
So Joe says, the ancient Egyptians said that one must weigh their hearts against a feather to enter into paradise. Zoroastrians believe in a process called the crossing of the Shinvat Bridge. Christians for centuries have affirmed the beliefs of sola fide, sola gratia, sola Christus. Yet, Spiritfarer insists on a more elective approach to the entering of the afterlife. If anything, it's a secondarily Arminianist approach to salvation, similar to medievalist Catholicism, where your capacity to enter the afterlife depended largely of the completion of works by another. In an essay of no more than 1,000 words, explain the potential pitfalls and benefits of such a system of salvation. I'm going to throw that to you, and you just do whatever you want with
I'm
that.
back in college days, dude, or high school. Like I need to get like some loose leaf out and start writing my essay. But it's an incredible question, actually. I know that like he put a lot of fluff on it at the beginning, to because it's Joe. My man knows what he's talking about. But it's a really incredible question. I think the first kind of point that I wanted to talk about is that he says that it's a little bit more similar to the works of someone else brings you to the afterlife. But I want to challenge that a little bit, because Atul, who is your uncle, which has a devastating story in and of itself, he actually takes himself to the Everdoor. He leaves your boat and he kind of does like an Irish goodbye. He invites everyone to a dinner, and then he leaves. You, of course, if you read maybe a little bit of lore behind it, or you put pieces together, you understand that he in real life probably ended his own life, which is really brutal, and something that I'm sure Stella had to deal with in her human life. Now, potential pitfalls or benefits to a system of salvation, I think, is a question that I can't answer, because to me, whatever happens after this life will happen, and I have no control over it. And I also will never know what that is until I die. So I can't say what the potential, the pros and cons of like doing this or doing that. It doesn't really matter to me, because at the end of the day, I can't control it. So I can't, I don't want to maybe put like my brain power, my brain capacity towards answering a question. It gives me more peace knowing that all I can control is how I live my life and how I hopefully make the lives of those around me better. And I can control what happens on earth. So that's kind of my answer to this question, which is not 1,000 words, but hopefully Joe accepts it in his own way. What I do want to talk about is my interpretation of the kind of afterlife, or the salvation, as Joe calls it, of what's going on in this game. So I think for sure, like this, maybe from the art book or whatever, the interpretation is Stella is dying and she's reliving kind of like these memories or kind of like relationships in her own way before she passes. But the way I kind of like to think about what the game is conveying to us is that all of us will be the Spiritfarers of our own life and our own self. So I like to think that just like Stella brought Gwen to the Everdoor and Gwen kind of went through the afterlife, I'd like to think that when Gwen died, she also became a Spiritfarer, and she also kind of was able to relive these meaningful relationships that she had in her own life, which includes Stella probably. She gets to learn from Stella. Stella gets to learn from herself as well. And then eventually Gwen will take herself through the Everdoor. So in my interpretation of this, every character that you meet and every spirit that you meet isn't actually their spirits per se. It's a representation of their spirits. And I think that is beautiful. I think it's beautiful that we are kind of taking a journey when we die, where we get to experience the most impactful relationships in our life. I think it's also beautiful and meaningful to think about how you don't know which relationships are the ones that impacted you the most until you get there and you find your 14, maybe spirits, I guess let's call them that will give that to you. So for example, I'm a little personal, I guess, but my father died when I was 12. And I think it would be a beautiful interpretation of this story is that if I die and go and become a Spiritfarer of my own journey, then I will get to see him and experience that relationship one more time and learn something from him, or maybe just have that like spirit world relationship until I'm ready. I come to terms, I grieve one more time, I experience loss one more time, and I kind of become whole, become peaceful with like everything that happened in my life. Who knows who else I'm gonna see, in that ethereal plane. Maybe it's Benny. Maybe it's one of the people in the Discord. I don't know.
I'm gonna send you on so many fetch quests, bro.
Bro, I'm gonna hate it.
You've got no idea.
But kind of finally letting go and accepting that fate yourself until you are ready to go to the next kind of stage of life, or I guess afterlife. I just found it so beautiful, and just thinking about all of us being Spiritfarers for one another, until we have to take ourselves. I think it's such a meaningful and beautiful way of looking at the afterlife. So yeah, that's my interpretation.
I've got nothing to add to that. I think that's a beautiful way of looking at and interpreting the game. I think, yeah, I mean, it is so tempting to throughout the game, just because we're gamers, we're playing lots of games with lots of narratives, we're trying to figure out what's going on in each game. So there's that, that instinct to try to figure out what's happening in this game. And yeah, I think along the same lines of you, like the best I could come up with was like, yeah, now Stella is on her deathbed after a life of serving others. I think like maybe one wrinkle I would throw is like kind of the form that it takes maybe is dependent on the individual. Like Stella, as a palliative care nurse, so much of her life was catering to the needs of others that her, term as the Spiritfarer took on that form as well, in a way, if that
Sure,
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know, maybe, yeah, that you could maybe interpret it that way, but I mean, I think, yeah, like you could look at it very literally and say, when somebody dies, there's the idea that, your life flashes before your eyes. And if you look at that scientifically, it's basically your brain kind of freaking out before it stops.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe this is just a representation of kind of internally what's going on in that process. Stella's brain on its way out is kind of trying to resolve some of these things from her past, trying to kind of square away and deal with some grief and some loss and some, positive experiences as well with all these people that impacted their lives. But yeah, I mean, either way, it's such a beautiful allegory kind of for life and death and finding meaning and all those things.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you, Joe, for the question and for making us talk about that, because it's not easy. As Ben said, we played Avowed last month, and that was just like, hey, it's kind of silly in its own way, but then we get to games like this where we have to have this human conversation, something that I don't know, is very beautiful, and I like to have these conversations with you, Benny. But I'm gonna ask you a question from the Discord again, from Inferno Disco. So they ask, what hit you the hardest in the game? And which spirit story impacted you the most, and why?
Yeah, I think this is a tough question. I think the thing that hit me the hardest in the game was probably just like the overall realization of Stella's role in this narrative, like as a nurse, as like a healthcare person that's kind of helping all these other people, through their death, basically. Now kind of going through it again and how that impacts the narrative. I think that probably hit me the hardest. And in terms of the spirit story, I would say probably either Stanley or Alice, just because they're so sad in very different ways. Like Alice, like you said, we've all got, the grandparent who we've grown up with and maybe is slowing down. And, hopefully we don't all have, someone we know that died very young as well.
Yeah.
But that's obviously a very sad thing. So those impacted me a lot for sure. And yeah, I just keep going back. Like, man, if there were just that little bit more of lore and explanation in the game instead of like in an external thing like the art book, man, it would have like some of them would have brought me to tears. I think like
Hmm.
Bruce and Mickey or Stanley. I genuinely do think, but yeah, I don't know. Regardless, lots of emotional moments for
Oh,
sure.
for sure. I was getting teary eyed with a few of them. I think the Alice hit me really hard. It was also early, so I think yeah, it hit me really really hard. So definitely her. I think Stanley, of course, I can't imagine anyone not having a strong reaction to Stanley's sequence when you take him to the Everdoor. I really liked kind of Summer's story or Summer's arc a little bit because it's about cancer. At least that's my interpretation of it. And
Yeah,
you kind of go around and find these big snakes or dragon or whatever you want to call them, and that's kind of like you dealing with Summer's cancer. But then it always comes back, and it just was impactful in two ways. It was impactful because of the story and how you have that conversation with Summer. But I just think the developers did a good job of finding kind of like a mini game that works well
yeah,
to represent what that would be in like a mini game sequence. So I think that was pretty impactful for me. Yeah, so I enjoyed that one a lot.
yeah. I've got last viewer question. So the last viewer question is from Dilly Pig, who is playing alongside us as well, and he's got the most
It really
important
is.
question, the question that dwarfs all other questions, the apex. Who gave the best hug?
I think it is without contest. Astrid gives the best hug. I mean, it's
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
I yeah, Astrid gives the best. But I'm gonna rank top three. Let's do top three so we can talk a
Okay,
little bit about more other hugs. So I wrote them down.
sure.
Astrid is for sure the best hug. I really really loved Beverly's hug because she's just this little plump little owl and she's a little tiny, and then you kind of pick her up like a pillow and then you squeeze her kind of like a pillow, and I just think that would be such a great hug. And then I really liked oh uh, well, I mean, I liked Alice's hug. I wrote it down, but I lost it. Alice's hug
Okay.
was good. So she's a little hedgehog, so she's a little smaller than you, and Stella has to kind of kneel down to give her a hug, and then you get in there. So
Yeah,
yeah, Astrid, Beverly, and Alice.
yeah. Astrid has to be number one because I mean we've all had that moment where we've been like, man, it would probably be awesome to like cuddle the friendly version of like a lion or a lynx in this case. Like, how incredible would that be? They're so
Yeah.
big, they're fluffy. Could you imagine just giving a big old hug to a lion or a lynx? Like, that would be awesome. But and then yeah, the game like reflects that. It's great. But Ashford's got to be one. I think two, maybe Atul, just because I mean he looks like he gives great
Yeah,
hugs.
he
Like we've
really
all we've
does.
all
Yeah.
got that one uncle
Oh
who's
yeah.
maybe a little on the larger side who just get in here,
Get
big
in
old hug.
there.
You love it.
Yeah.
Maybe number two, and then three, maybe Daria, the most unique
Yeah.
maybe I
Yeah.
think,
Totally.
or because she's kind of like a little bat. She kind of flaps around, and you just get this like bat hug. She wraps the wings around. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's my top three. Great question,
Great
phenomenal
question.
question.
Thank you, Dilipig, and thank you everyone on the Discord for asking questions. And in the
Yes.
same vein as Dilipig's question, my next question is: every single character has a nickname for you.
Mhm.
What is your favorite nickname that a character gave you?
Oh no, they've all disappeared from my
So
memory.
for example, the ones that come to mind for me. So I guess I'll answer a question, but the one I like the most is Honeybee. That
Yeah.
Summer calls you Honeybee. Um, Giovanni calls you Bombina.
Mm.
Someone calls you Peanut, I think, and yeah, you got all these things. Benny, come on, you
I would
forgot
say
already?
the my least favorite is like I, f- I forget Jackie, the like hyena, the
Mm-hmm.
nurse
Calls you
has like he calls you like Smella or something.
Smellers, yeah.
Smellers.
Yeah.
And it's like it's pretty clear that you don't like that nickname, but he keeps calling you it. And he like eventually has to like kind of apologize for it. So that's probably the worst. But yeah. I don't they've all disappeared from my
No,
mind. I can't
okay,
think of
okay. Bombina's good. Honestly, I remember Bombina and Honeybee because I thought they were the best ones.
yeah. Yeah. I've got a question for you.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
this isn't the first time that we've played a game in Video Game Book Club with more of like an emotional message. So like,
Sure.
whether it's Outer Wilds or Near Automata, or maybe a few others that could kind of be in that category as well. But I'm curious, like, one, how do you think this game kind of stacks up to those in terms of the presentation and the delivery of like a more emotional thing? And two, like, how do you think the game balanced the underlying gameplay with that kind of narrative component, do you think?
That's a great question. I think the story of Spiritfarer and how they present it is incredible. It's so good. I genuinely believe that. That's kind of what I was talking about with my theory of how I interpret the game. Like it made such a big impact to me personally that I almost hope that that happens. I hope that I become a Spiritfarer for my peoples. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
But the second part of your question is really, really good because I do have a lot of thoughts on that, and I'm glad you asked me. I think that there could have been so many better mechanics for this game to help you do two things. Experience the story a little bit better, experience that dialogue, that rapport, that relationship that you want to have with your characters, and two, help you mechanically with all the things that you have to do in your boat. So I'm not a huge like sim management gamer kind of person, but I can only imagine the automation features that a game like Stardew Valley or whatever other kind of like farming sim game would have whenever you start upgrading your stuff. So a lot of the upgrades that happen in your boat, I mean, we haven't talked about it, but like, dude, you have chickens on your boat, you have a cow on your boat, you can do the smithy, you can ferment things, you can cook, you can do the foundry, you can do the sawmill, you can do the loom, you can do so much stuff. And it's just, there's not enough time to do everything. And every upgrade that you have for these facilities only really makes it so that you yield more things, but it doesn't help you make the process of getting these items better. Now, they do one thing, and this was a completely missed opportunity, I think, is as we talked about, your characters in the boat help you, quote unquote, with these facilities. So like a tool will come running to you and say, yo, I got some planks for you. Planks. Come get some planks. And you go and talk to him. And my man gives you one motherfucking maple plank. One, dude, if I split a log, I get 6 planks. Like
I know.
It just, I think it would have been so interesting if your characters helped you actually a lot with every facility. If a tool came up to me and was like, brother, or niece, I grabbed 5 of your logs and I made you 30 planks. Thank you. Oh my God, you saved me so much time. Astrid, hey, I went to the loom and I made you silk fabric. Thank you. Or Summer with the garden, and like maybe she could harvest for you, and Alice with the orchard, she can do that for you. And I just think that that was a missed opportunity because it asks a very important question. When are you ready to let go of this kind of like sim help that you get from managing all of your boat to take them to the Everdor? I think that would have been a really interesting thing where you enjoy a tool cutting all of your logs and doing that for you. So you kind of don't want to take him to the Everdor. Not that you do with a tool. That was a bad example. But I think if they had married that a little bit better, it would have even been a bigger pain emotionally and almost like physically a little bit with taking them to the Everdor. It would actually ask you a question. Are you ready to let go of this big help or not? So right. I think they could have done a little bit of that if they especially wanted to marry the kind of mechanic of the game and the spirits, or just give me some automation tools and let me like toss in a bunch of stuff and then I'll pick them up later.
Yeah, no, you nailed that. I mean, in similar games like resource management games, essentially Stardew Valley, RimWorld, Factorio, whatever, automation is the big means of progression. It's, you get a sprinkler that waters your crops every day, so you don't have to do that anymore. Whatever it is, like there's so many ways to automate the little annoying things so that you don't have to do them anymore, and there's none of that in this game. So yeah, I really feel like it was missing that. And that's a fantastic recommendation that you made. Like, make it so that, while Atul is on the boat, he's manning the sawmill. So you just go in, you drop off some logs, you come back, and they're all done. Like, he did it great.
Yeah.
I mean, the little mini games for cutting the logs are like fun, and I appreciate them, but like not enough to warrant doing it 200 times in a playthrough. Like, it's just repetitive.
So
So
repetitive.
yeah, there's such an opportunity for more of that automation that could potentially, alleviate some of the grindiness at the end of the game as well that I had a problem with. So yeah, I think that's a great suggestion.
And I want to shout out Dilly Pig actually because we had a conversation about that and we bounced ideas off each other
Oh
on
yeah.
kind of how that would look like. So that was a pretty fun conversation that again happened in the BGBC community. Okay, since you're talking about kind of my next question, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you: do you feel that in games like these you get player fatigue? For example, I feel a lot closer to the first half of the cast of characters than the second half. But I don't think the writing got worse or anything. Like they're still great characters that they wrote for the game. I just had so much fatigue from the game, so I didn't get to enjoy them as much as the first half. Maybe they could have thrown them in earlier or something. I don't know. But that's my question to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I think that's very real, and it's like, it speaks to our internal biases a little bit, where we like prefer the first of something instead of like the middle, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's also like the game introduces some of the strongest characters first,
Mhm.
so you get a lot of these really strong experiences in the very beginning of the game, and then in the middle, there's kind of like a lull. There's like some characters that either take a little bit longer to develop or like don't have as strong of a story in the context of the narrative, or whatever it may be. um I disagree like a little bit, just in terms, because like I thought one of the more impactful narratives was Jackie and Daria, who came at the very end of the game for
Mhm.
me. I think they were the last spirits I did. So in that way, it didn't like, it kind of bookended it for me. It was like good, good, and then in the middle, like not as good
Sure,
almost.
sure.
So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, same. I mean, I just felt like I just didn't have the energy anymore to kind of engage as much. But
Yeah,
I don't think the writing got worse. I think it was very
no,
good
yeah,
the whole time. I just couldn't do it. Like I mean, I say that and I played 30 hours and did 98%. So I guess there was not that much fatigue, but it felt like that to me a little bit.
yeah, yeah. Well, JP, my last question for you is, what are we grading this game? We got to give the book report, man. It's time.
Okay, well,
It's
I have
time.
one final question for you, Benny, that
Oh, okay.
you didn't
Oh,
ask me.
excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, go ahead.
So it's a simple one, and then we'll get on the grading. Is there any animal that you wish you saw in the game as one of the spirits? Additionally, if you were to be ferried through the Everdoor, maybe by me, who knows, what animal would you want to be?
Oh my gosh. Wow, what a great question. Um, I don't know. I think they covered like such a wide range of animals. Like,
They
you
did.
had lions, you had hyenas, you had owls, you had, I don't even know what buck is, like a
Like a
little
parrot?
dragon parrot thing. He's got like
Yeah.
these big kind of, I don't know. You have a mushroom, a living
Yeah.
mushroom. I don't know. It maybe a character could be like a tiger or something like that.
Sure.
Like, we have the lynx and the lion. Maybe like a Bengal tiger or something would be cool.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of what spirit I would want to be, I mean, tiger sounds pretty enticing. I, but my wife always compares me to like a raven for whatever reason. She says
Ah,
my spirit animal would be a raven. So I'll go with that. What
dude,
about
that's a
you?
great one. Yeah. I was thinking an animal that I would have loved to see is an elephant. I thought it would be really comical to have like such a big animal in the boat
Yeah,
as well,
yeah.
you know? And also a hug with the elephant would be fun if like they like kind of wrapped you in their trunk and kind of tossed you up or something like that would have been kind of cute. So why not? I'll be an elephant. I don't think I'm like I would be an elephant probably, but I'll just say that. I think I'm thinking a bird of some sort like you, to be honest. But Benny, I enjoyed Spiritfarer a lot. I think it's fun. In Video Game Book Club, we have some games where like the gameplay mechanics carry the game so well and make it so much fun to play. Whereas Spiritfarer, it's almost the emotional side and the story that carries the game and makes it such a pleasure to play it. Whereas
Yeah.
maybe the mechanic side of it, especially in the games that you and I like to play, were I don't want to say lacking because it sounds too derogatory, but definitely weren't on par as like the story, the art, the design of the game. But I enjoyed my time with this game greatly, and I'm thinking a B plus for Spiritfarer.
I feel like we always give the same grade. And I'm annoyed because that's where I am too.
Hey,
It's like so it's on that border of like B plus A minus, and maybe it's recency bias because I did get like a little annoyed with the grindiness of the game. Um
I
that
think B
brings
plus
it
is
to
a
that
great
that B
grade though.
plus.
You
So
know?
do I. So do I.
Yeah.
But regardless, I mean, such a unique game. Like, yeah, I enjoyed my experience with it. I think it told such a compelling narrative, especially in retrospect. Unfortunately, like, maybe it could have been a little stronger in the moment. Um, but yeah, really unique in its presentation, really unique in the way it delivers this narrative, and tackling like a really difficult subject. So, I appreciate all those aspects of it. And yeah, overall, really enjoyed B plus.
Stamp it. BJBC says
Boom.
B plus.
One day we're
Ben,
gonna hire a graphic designer to do a stamp on the screen. Boom.
she's just next door actually, so I'll go knock on her door and ask her to do that for us.
We can't afford her hourly rate.
I
So
know,
we
right? I
can't.
need to do so many chores around the house or something for it. Benny, we have this kind of new situation going on with BGPC where the
Yes.
community picks a game, you pick a game, I pick a game, and we kind of
Yep.
keep rotating. And the community picked Spiritfarer, and it is your turn, Benny, to pick a game. So, what do you have in store for us for May 2025?
So this one requires a little bit of setup.
Oh,
So first of all, let me say there's kind of an embarrassment of riches right now in gaming. We had
dude,
the
yeah.
Blueprints release a few weeks ago, which everyone's been playing. I've been playing it. It's incredible. We had Claire Obscure Expedition
And
33,
you
which a ton of
know
people,
I'm going to
yeah,
dive in
my
head
boy
first in
JP,
that game.
yeah, we've had a lot of people in the Discord playing that game and talking about that game. So that's awesome. I may try to play it as well. Um, but
Ooh.
I owe a debt. I owe a debt to Joe, our number one listener,
Yeah, he really is.
from day one. And from day one, Joe has been recommending. In the Discord, we've got a game recommendations channel. And every time we say, who's got a game, any game you want to see us play with us, whatever. Joe says, oh, there's this little game called Small Saga. It's like one of my favorite games of all time. I think you guys should play it. And we've always been like, yeah, that's an awesome option. Like, let's keep it in our back pockets. But then inevitably, the end of the month comes around and some new game comes out. We want to play that. Or, oh, we just got this awesome recommendation. We want to play that. Or, oh man, I've been wanting to play this for so long and we play that. And time after time, Joe has been suffering,
Oh,
begging
poor
us to
Joe.
play Small Saga. And I said, enough! No more! We're playing Small Saga. And the beauty of it is it's a short game. It's only 10 hours or so. So we can knock it out. We can play the game and then, you get to your Expedition 33 or whatever you want to do.
Yes.
Um, But I'm really excited. Joe speaks really highly of this game. He says it's one of his favorite games of all time. So that sets, obviously sets my expectations pretty high. But I mean, it presents itself very simply. It is a kind of isometric looking RPG. You play this little mouse who is, beneath the streets of London, and you are fighting essentially cats. You're seeking revenge on these cats who stole his tail. So that's the setup of the game.
Wow,
It
I did not know
seems
that.
maybe a little like I can't even honestly tell what the gameplay is going to look like, but the art style looks awesome, the setup looks awesome, and I'm very excited to play it and to play it with Joe and let relive this game with him while we do it.
I'm so pumped. The art style does look really good, and it seems like a turn-based RPG of sorts, which seems awesome. I think I read that like the bosses of Small Saga are like, some of the best bosses, in kind of like that genre, or at least in the indie kind of turn-based RPG style of games ish. So
Let's go.
super pumped to play Small Saga. I have a little trip planned next week, actually. So you best believe I'm going to be loading that sucker up on my Steam Deck and playing on the plane from Houston all the way to Boston. It's 4 hours. I didn't even realize. And I'm going to play 4 hours of Small Saga for sure. Thank you, Joe, for recommending that game. And Ben is right. He's been saying we should play Small Saga since probably June of last year when we started.
Yeah, basically day one.
So, and also, just in general, thank you, Joe, and everyone on the Discord for being such a great part of the community. It's been amazing to interact with everyone lately.
Yeah.
It
join the
like,
Discord.
Yeah,
join
it seems like the Discord's popping off every day, and it's awesome to see. Because Ben and I love video games. I don't know if you noticed, but we love them. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Video Game Book Club. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, check us out on all the podcast platforms. I swear to you, you're gonna find us in Apple Podcast, Spotify, and everywhere else. And don't forget that we have a new podcast called The Checkpoint that will be coming out at the middle of every month, where Ben and I will be checking in on how Video Game Book Club is going. Plus, we'll talk about other games that the community has been playing, other games that Ben and I have been playing, and some game news here and there. So check us out. Thank you so much again for listening. We'll see you in about 15 days. Bye.
Bye.